good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending when you listen to this. Welcome to Tax in the Spotlight, the Safri Sports Entertainment Podcast. I'm Pete Hackleton, a partner and head of the sports entertainment team at Safri, and today I'm joined by my fellow partner, Kathy Johnson, and KJ Singh, a senior manager in our team. Both Kathy and KJ specialise in advising individuals and organisations within the music industry, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. We act for many famous musicians around the world, helping them with their complex tax planning and compliance needs in a really fast-moving landscape. So, Kathy, KJ, thank you both for joining me. Good to see you both.
Hi, Pete.
Hi, Pete.
So let's get straight to it. And I think it's important to start by mentioning we look after lots of different types of clients in the space. So we look after lots of UK-based artists and bands. We also look after those who are non-resident. So we'll end up covering both. But Kathy, maybe you could outline first of all what we do for our UK-based clients.
Yeah, sure. As you say, we look after both UK resident bands and artists and non-resident artists coming in. For our UK resident individuals and bands, Safri can do as much or as little financial management as our clients require. Some of the bands that we look after aren't megastars and they aren't into their third album cycle. Some of them are just new to the industry. So it's more of an educational piece and providing the support that they need for a commercial, affordable basis. From the outset, we would look at any trading options that they have. And of course, from a tax planning perspective, from the outset, we would then look at how these guys should be trading, whether they are an individual or whether they are in a band trading as a partnership. And we would outline their trading options available to them. We look at what income potentially they'll be earning and any sources and splits of that income that is going to each of the band members, and of course the touring piece. So these individuals are touring the world, performing their services, and we need to make sure that they are compliant in every territory that they tour in, not only themselves, but also for their entourages, and also minimising any taxes that they pay along the way. We also advise them on expenses and how to minimise their tax obligations and also good record keeping. From a tax compliance perspective, we obviously look after that UK tax return piece for either themselves as individuals or if they trade via a company or via a partnership. And we also look at whether they should be filing tax returns in other countries if they've toured there and earn income. We would look at VAT thresholds and we would advise our clients as to when they should be registering for VAT and how that works. As we acknowledge that our clients are constantly on the road, they need a versatile accounting cloud software to make their life a lot easier. So we provide that option. We also provide them an opportunity to use our software to click on their app, email their receipts into us. So it's underpinning all of that. It's often our job to take the accounts and the tax computations and explain those accounts and tax computations to the band or an artist or their team in a way in which that they will understand those figures. So we also play that kind of educational piece so that we absolutely ensure that they are understanding their financials.
Are there any huge differences between looking after individual artists or looking after the whole band?
Yeah, I think when you look after an individual, it's often a little more straightforward in that you have one individual earning income from a number of different income streams, whether that's merchandising, recording, publishing, rights, or performance income. And therefore, it's easier to understand what their tax position is. When you have a collective of individuals in a band who are providing their services as a partnership, you may have one individual that writes the songs and 3 individuals that don't. You may have then 4 individuals that go on stage, and therefore all of the different income streams are split in different ways.
And we just talked there about all of the important accounting and tax things you do, but I suspect your services go above and beyond sometimes. You must have had some interesting situations over the years.
I've had some very interesting situations over the years. It's mainly, when these individuals are on tour, you are their trusted advisor and you are part of their team that deals with all of the financials. So I've had many a situation where I'm getting that call early morning or very late evening where credit cards don't work. You're required to sort it out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And then if we move on to the non-resident musicians, what are the key tax issues and considerations for them, and how can we help with that?
I think here it's mainly thinking about just getting back to basics and getting it right from the start. Touring around the world logistically is obviously a huge thing. If you start off for tour in Europe, we've got a plan which everywhere that they're going to go. When you look at the money side of things, it's also thinking about, well, you might be earning 100 grand off your tour, but how much of that is going to commission? How much of that is going to flight? How much of that is going to all your expenses? What people usually forget, and is usually the hidden cost, is the withholding tax and social securities. This is like a massive chunk, and usually it works out to be the entire cash flow and profit of the tour. So getting these things right at the beginning, and I mean, when I say beginning, I mean like when you're planning your tour, getting them embedded into people's minds that early is so important. And understanding what's needed. In some cases, it's literally a bit of paper. In other cases, it's hiring a team of advisors like us to plan everything for you. There are so many aspects of withholding taxes and social securities that can just go over your head. And to expect a musician to understand all of them is next to impossible. Their job is to make the music, to put on an amazing performance. The taxes, the accounting, that's what we do. That's our job. We'd start our planning by literally looking at each individual territory, figuring out what the costs are and figuring out how we can minimize the withholding tax and social securities, getting as many of those forms in as possible, getting them in as early as possible, requesting the forms from the UK or the IRS or whichever territory the artist is originally from. Then it gets to some specialist knowledge where there's literally nobody but someone like me, Kath, or our team could provide advice on, especially when we have to make treaty claims. Like that's completely higher level of legislation that you need to take advantage of. So then there's the touring cycles have also changed massively. It used to be that everybody toured in the UKI tour in the summer and that's it. Since COVID, everybody's touring the world year round. Everybody hits winters usually in Asia, in Australia. The touring cycle is no longer a few months here and a few months there. It could be a year long. It could be 18 months long to hit all the territories that need hitting. And we can provide our services anywhere in the world. And kind of our unique selling point is that we are the one-stop shop. You come to us, we take care of everything. We'll be more than happy to help with anywhere that you're going around the world.
So just listening to that and the huge number of jurisdictions I know you guys have worked, obviously there's a lot to know and a lot to learn. Presumably you've got like a strong network of people that you've experienced working with over a number of years that can help us out in the different territories.
That's exactly it. Yeah, we have a number of trusted colleagues and as again, just like we're the trusted advisor, we have trusted advisors that we use in certain territories. I mean, at the end of the day, like we might be great, but I can't read Spanish. I can't read French. So we do need some people to translate and input their knowledge of their tax legislation as well. And that's what they help us utilize.
I'd also add to that it's our kind of 30 years in this space experience that also is exceptionally helpful in that the breadth of the clients that we act for means that we have boutique experts that know this stuff in literally every territory around the world. I've literally done work, undertaken tour clearances in every country around the world, and not just for the artists themselves, also for the people that they are bringing in. For example, there's high social security levies in some of these territories that can be so easily minimized or mitigated in most circumstances by just providing some paperwork. That paperwork can take months to arrive. So if a band decides 2 weeks before a show that they're going to try and minimize their social security, it's going to be quite difficult. And that band will not get paid until the social security forms are in some circumstances. So it really is a cash flow disadvantage to not take advice for these hidden costs of touring that are hitting their budget. The other thing about social security is it's so easy to get rid of, but if you do suffer it, you can't get a credit for it. So if you suffer withholdings as you're touring as an artist, hopefully when you file your taxes in your home territory, any taxes that you've paid around the world, you will get a credit for on your home territory tax return. That's another vital reason why it's so important to minimize the withholdings, because what you want to be in a position is that you're not paying over and above your UK tax bill or your US tax bill or wherever your home country tax bill is from, that your withholdings aren't in excess of that.
I've heard both of you mention US artists. I suppose the US is probably the most popular territory in terms of artists coming into the UK and performing, or Europe and performing, and UK artists going back. The US is obviously a huge location for music. Is there anything specific around interactions with the IRS or working with US advisors that people need to be aware of?
That's right. So there's a couple of things. It's back to the point of planning in advance. So in the UK, we have 30 days before the first payment to file what we call an FEU tax clearance. As Kath mentioned, that minimizing these taxes are really important. And in the UK, that's one of the ways we do this. We will file a clearance with HMRC within 30 days before the show, so that when they pay out, the withholding is correct from the get-go, cash flow isn't impacted, and they are completely compliant in the UK. From a US point of view, we would enlist one of our trusted advisors to prepare what is called a central withholding agreement. This, in the reverse, it needs to be done 45 days before the first show. So having this information and having everything prepared in advance benefits the artist so much. And that is something that should always be thought about.
Well, I guess to add on that is that in the US, you don't just have a federal tax position, you also have a state tax position. So if you are traveling to the US with your entourage and you're going from state to state, you will have withholdings in most US states, as well as a federal US tax bill to also minimize. And you also have a social security issue or a withholding tax issue if you have any musicians and performers on stage with you. So without getting too complicated, there are quite a few layers of things that would need to be looked at and advised upon when people are touring the States.
Excellent. And I guess finally, we hopefully will have some musicians listening to this. Are there any top tips that you would give to anyone listening?
My top tips is to definitely kind of take advice, to make sure that you are making informed decisions. The other thing, if you are in a band, I would absolutely encourage there to be a partnership agreement or a band agreement to ensure that should you have a leaving member, that things are quite clear. And, you know, it's a highly emotional and messy point in a musician's career anyway. These things do make life a little bit easier. And I would also look for an advisor that does work in this space, that can work with you, your management and your agent as a team, because, you know, making informed decisions about where you're touring, being in receipt of that information as where the withholdings are highest, what paperwork you need to have in situ to mitigate some of these taxes as you tour is vital.
So it's also worth noting that whilst the music is obviously the forefront of everything, this is a business. Like, you need to have your record keeping up to date. You need to make sure you're registered for your taxes. You need to make sure you're registered for VAT. Getting that advice in early and getting someone on your side to help see you through each hurdle is going to be a massive help for you as you grow. The sooner you start this, the sooner, and get specialist advice from someone in the industry, the better your business is going to run. And to be fair, the better your future and your cash flow is going to be.
I think there's also some quite straightforward things like banking, just ensuring that your banking is set up in a way where it's quite straightforward for somebody like an accountant to quite quickly give you your real-time financials. Some bands require financial management quarterly, of which we are very set up to do so that if you have a band of, say, 4 individuals, if one person suddenly wants to then buy a house and get a mortgage, the financials are there. The other thing that is quite important is insurance, and we are quite well connected with insurers to ensure, excuse the pun, that all of your gear, all of your assets, your tours, everything is insured. You have liability insurance. Things happen on stage. people crowd surf, microphones fly off stages. And so it's vital that the band or the artist are also insured. And we can facilitate those introductions by making sure that the right people that do work in this industry are advising you.
Excellent stuff. Thank you both. Anyone who listens to this podcast regularly, hi Mom, will know that I usually throw in a question just at the end, just a little fun question for everyone. So I think today's one with a music theme would be, I am obviously a huge karaoke fan. America by Razorlight for me, but I'm going to throw it out to both of you. First of all, KJ, karaoke song of choice?
This is actually a really easy one. It's Everybody by Backstreet Boys. Nice and easy. Everybody knows the word.
Wonderful.
Everybody's so fun.
I usually join you on that one, to be fair.
Exactly.
Kath?
Oh, dead easy. Madonna, Get Into the Groove.
Oh, lovely choices. Great choices. That's great. Thank you, Kathy and KJ, for joining me today. That was a really insightful conversation about the music industry and the various tax challenges facing musicians. As ever, we should note this is a complex area. You should always take professional advice, and ideally from us. And that's all for this episode of Tax in the Spotlight. Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review our show. And if you have any questions at all on today's topic or to find out more about us, please head to www.safri.com and drop us a line. Thank you for listening.